What two cities in Spain and Mexico that share the same name, Captain Kirk's most notorious enemy, and a personal luxury car have in common? If you said the Chrysler Cordoba,
check out the big brain on Brad. You're a smart motherfucker. That's right.
the Chrysler Cordoba was one of the few bright spots for the Chrysler Corporation in the mid-1970s. Wait a second, it may have been the only bright spot for them. From 1975 through 1977, Cordoba sales accounted for all but half of Chrysler division sales, averaging around 150,000 sold each year. Not too shabby for a derivatively styled, inherently impractical car that rode on an aging, to put it lightly, chassis. Granted, those sales were a drop in the bucket compared to the number of Monte Carlos Chevrolet sold. But after years of unfortunate product planning, I'll stop short of saying poor product planning, internal strife and stiff competition, Chrysler took what they could get to stave off bankruptcy. Keep in mind, this is in the years not only before government loans and Lee Iacocca, but the K car as well. Chrysler was quite late to the personal luxury car party that seemed to define automobiles sold in this country in the 1970s. Back then, it seemed folks were either buying block-long station wagons with fake wood paneling on the sides or personal luxury cars. Personal luxury cars like the Chevrolet Monte Carlo and Pontiac Grand Prix, Oldsmobile Cutlass, Buick Regal, and Ford Elite. A what? The Elite was Ford's attempt at a Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Let's throw the Ford Thunderbird in there too, just to say we did, starting in 1974, the Mercury Cougar as well. If you want to lump the Buick Riviera, Oldsmobile Toronado, Cadillac Eldorado, and Lincoln Continental marks in there, by all means, knock yourself out. Chrysler built the Cordoba and its Dodge Charger clone on what they referred to internally as their B-body or B platform. The B-body started out in 1962 under downsized Dodge and Plymouth models, but the public balked at them. Not because they were smaller and lighter, but because they were construed as being ugly. Personally, I think they're very cool. The coupes and station wagons in particular, but what do I know? Chrysler upsized Dodge and Plymouth full-size models for 1965 on what they refer to as their C-body, but they kept the 1962 vintage B around, creating a de facto intermediate chassis, if you will. On this chassis, Dodge and Plymouth built some rather interesting automobiles, including the 1965-74 Plymouth Satellite, 1967-71 Plymouth GTX, 1968-70 Dodge Charger, 1968-74 Plymouth Roadrunner, and a bunch of others. The Chrysler division didn't get a B-body until the Cordoba debuted in 1975. As far as the name of the car goes, there were a number of different names bantered about for it, including Grand Era, Premier, Sebring, and Murata, but they decided to name the car after the city in Andalusia, Spain, that's the capital of the province of Cordoba. There's also a Cordoba in central Argentina. It, too, is a capital city, as it is the capital of Cordoba province, and it's the second most populous city in Argentina, after Buenos Aires. The Chrysler Cordoba hood ornament, in fact, is modeled after an Argentine coin. Now, one origin story about the name of the city stems from the word Gartuba, which meant good town. In fact, after the Roman conquest in 218 BC, the city in Spain at least was pronounced Corduba. The city in Argentina was founded in 1573 and named Cordoba. It's said because the founder's wife had family members with ties back to Cordoba in Spain. Well, you know what they say. The family that settles cities together stays together. Chrysler took some poetic license with the pronunciation of Cordoba. The cities may be known as Cordoba, but the cars, all built in Ontario, Canada by the way, were pronounced Cordoba. The use of the Cordoba name on the 1975 personal luxury car wasn't the first time Chrysler used Cordoba. Chrysler Corporation had first used it in 1970 as a trim package option on their full-size Chrysler Newport. The 1975 Chrysler Cordoba, though, wasn't originally intended to be a Chrysler at all. It was supposed to be a Plymouth. However, executives believed they could charge more for it if they marketed the car as a Chrysler. Back then, Chrysler, the division, had as much panache in the marketplace as, say, Buick, Oldsmobile, and Mercury. Priced a bit more than a Chevrolet Monte Carlo that it bears some resemblance to, but below that of a Pontiac Grand Prix. Then as now, America knows a good deal when it sees one. They also love the car's spokesperson. Without question, a large part of the Cordoba's success in the 1970s was due to a series of television commercials starring Ricardo Montalban. That became, for better or worse, one of the defining pop cultural moments of the decade. Ricardo Montalban already had a long-acting resume in stage, film, and movies prior to becoming famous for pitching the Cordoba, which he put his own spin on pronouncing, and its available, soft Corinthian leather.
Cordoba, Corinthian.
One of his more memorable roles prior to 1975 was as Captain Kirk's nemesis in the original TV Star Trek episode The Space Seed.
James Kirk, commanding the Starship Enterprise.
Khan is my name.
Khan, nothing else.
Khan.
He brought the role back to life in 1982 for the second Star Trek movie, The Wrath of Khan. Mr. Montalban also appeared in 2 Planet of the Apes movies, the first Naked Gun movie, and made numerous guest appearances on TV shows from Wonder Woman to Columbo, Dynasty, The Love Boat, Murder, She Wrote, Family Guy, and American Dad.
The courage lies with a man who has the guts to say no to a fast food restaurant and eat a salad instead.
He had a starring role in the Dynasty spin-off, The Colbys, from 1985 through 1987. He got the role as the Cordoba's pitchman in 1974, after starring in a traveling production of George Bernard Shaw's Don Juan in Hell. The tour had stopped in Detroit, and executives from Chrysler and advertising agency Young and Rubicam saw him in it and cast him immediately. Of note, the role he's arguably most famous for, as Mr. Rourke on Fantasy Island, came in 1977, a couple of years after he began hawking Cordobas. Now, did he get the role because producers liked the way he pronounced Corinthian leather? We'll never know.
Welcome to Fantasy Island.
Mr. Montalban passed away at the age of 88 in January of 2009. As far as the Corinthian leather goes, while soft, there really was nothing remarkable about it. It was stitched together at a factory in, no, not Spain or Argentina, New Jersey.
Corinthian.
Oh, yeah.
See,
But does it mean anything?
Nothing.
Cordoba sales dropped sharply in 1978 due to an unfortunate redesign of the car that, in my opinion, did away with much of what made it distinctive. Chrysler also introduced a smaller luxury car in 1977 they called the LeBaron that offered many of the luxury features the Cordoba did in a smaller, somewhat more fuel-efficient and manageable package. It was also available as a 4-door sedan and station wagon, whereas the Cordoba was available only as a coupe. Due to government-mandated gas mileage regulations, things really went south for the Cordoba starting in 1980, when Chrysler redesigned the car, making it smaller and lighter.
With the Cordoba, we went back to the drawing boards. We wanted to get the gas mileage up, but not at the expense of the styling.
I like what they've done to my car.
Sorry, Ricardo. I, for one, didn't, although I've warmed to these cars somewhat over the years. I guess in a vacuum they're not bad looking, just in comparison to what the Cordoba had been, especially from 1975 through 1977. It paled in comparison. Many buyers apparently felt the same way too. Chrysler pulled the plug on the Cordoba after model year 1983. I hope you enjoyed this little history lesson on the Chrysler Cordoba. I had a 1975 years ago, and I loved it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment below, like, and subscribe.